All right, we are live. Awesome.
Right. Mm.
All right, thank you everyone for turning up and coming to this webinar. We've now been through a few versions of this, so it's slowly getting streamlined a bit. But first of all, I'd like to do a little bit of housekeeping. So on the right hand side of your screen there is a chat functionality which you can type in and interact. But there's also a specific tab for questions and answers which we can get to towards the end. So if anything pops into your mind while Marcus is going through his presentation, you can put it in there, and we'll definitely get to it. But we'll try and answer them, I guess, as they come in a little bit, if it makes sense at the time. But definitely get to them towards the end. There's a specific section for that. Just before we do get into it, I do want to thank Destination Orewa Beach, Business Whangapara, and Silverdale Business for all collaborating to put this together, and of course Marcus for putting together the presentation and kind of his time to tell everyone a little bit about, well, one, himself, but also to give everyone a few little common IT problems for businesses and the solutions for those, as well as talking about cybersecurity awareness. So I'm going to pass it over to him in a second, and then towards the end, like I said, we'll go into the Q&A, and also I'll mention briefly what the next webinar will be. So I'd like to introduce Marcus, the Managing Director of NorthTec. Floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that. Right. Welcome, everybody. I've been asked from Matt to put this presentation together, and I think I'm happy to do this. I think it's good to share knowledge so that everyone basically can make their own decisions. So I'll kick into it. NorthTec is an IT company that was formed back in 2015. We actually merged two companies, Quattro Enterprises, which is a company I've owned since 2003, another IT company, and also MoreTech, my business partner, Greg Moore. So we both have backgrounds. Greg's from TVNZ, and mine is from the oil industry. So quite a corporate side. That's why I've got a lot of experience. So there's two directors in the company. Both of us have over 25 years in the IT industry, so we've been around for quite a long time. And I'm a chartered IT professional. There's about 500 in New Zealand. So that's something that I wanted to do, and make sure that we're professionally doing things as best we can do. NorthTec itself specializes in the health industry, but we do all businesses as well. So from accountants to lawyers, the small businesses 1 to 3 users, up to your sort of bigger 50 users. So a whole range of customers, really. So, and we just enjoy helping people and making sure that they keep things running smoothly for them. So the first thing that I wanted to go through, I think with any business, is backups. Basically, if you're a business, you need to have backups. A lot of people tend to think that if you throw things in the cloud, it's backed up. To a certain extent, it is. So if you have like a Dropbox, you have OneDrive, there is retention there, but there are different types of accounts. There is your home account, which some businesses have, and there's business accounts. It's different. So in terms of what backups that Dropbox and OneDrive have, it could be if you've got a business account, you get basically 6 months. If you've got a home account, it might be just 30 days. So these are things you need to think about when you're getting these accounts for your backup side of it. For your systems that you have in your office, whether you're a one-person business or a 5 or 6 person business, the best type of backups really is an image backup. So that basically, if you mean your master PC or your server, that basically should be done as a whole system. So that basically, if that drive actually dies, you can recover everything and very simply. So that is the best type of backups. Years ago, we used to have file backups, but I think we've gone past that now already. Hard drives have got pretty cheap now, so it's quite easy to put in place. And the other thing is most businesses now be moving to the cloud and moving their emails to Microsoft. So Microsoft have a professional package called Microsoft Exchange, and that in my view is probably one of the most professional email solutions out there, and it's become easy now. So whereas before, years ago, you had to have your own server, an Exchange server, now you just sign up to a Microsoft account, move your email across, and you've got enterprise level email. So we've pretty much moved all our clients over to that, and we find it very, very reliable. So just going back to the end part, recommendations, make sure you got a backup of all your critical data. So even though you got third parties there, do you trust them? Even like Dropbox, OneDrive, can you call someone? Sometimes you can't. So our view is making sure that you have your own backups, that if things go badly, at least you can recover. So, I think that in businesses is very critical to have backups. I was asked to just go through common IT problems for businesses. So I've just put a list of things, and I'll go through these things here. One of the biggest things we get at the moment, because everybody's working from home, is slow internet. Depending on what the ISP has sold you, you might find that your internet speed is due to the plan you have. If you've got an old fiber plan, the base plans were 30 meg download and 10 meg upload, which is pretty poor. It's just basically the same speed as VDSL, which is the copper internet. So one thing you can do if you're struggling with your internet, you can actually just go to www.speedtest.net, and that will give you an indication of how fast your connection is. And to increase your speed is probably only $10 these days. There's not a lot to upgrade that speed. Another area is everyone is dealing with Wi-Fi. Our view of Wi-Fi is it's convenience, but where possible, we would highly recommend cable. Cable you can't beat for reliability and speed. With Wi-Fi, depending on how close you are to the router or an access point, is how fast you get. Obviously, it's convenient if you want to have your laptop in the lounge and your router somewhere else downstairs in your garage. Then obviously, you're a little bit limited. But what you can do to improve Wi-Fi is add an access point. Now, an access point connects on the network, but they're generally more powerful than what comes with routers. And you might find that you put it around the building, somewhere else in the office, or even somewhere else at home. And that will give you fantastic Wi-Fi throughout the building or the house. Another area is systems fit for purpose. A lot of people for businesses sometimes overlook what they're actually buying. With COVID and lockdown, I feel that everyone wants to go and buy a laptop, and that's great. I can see the benefit. You can take it to work and you can take it home again. So that is really worth it in terms of that mobility. But if you have a setup office at home, you can't beat PCs for being faster, more reliable, and a longer life than laptops, because there's less moving parts in them. You're not opening a screen each day. So that in itself is probably, we've done that with quite a few businesses where they thought they need a laptop, but we've gone through it, and they might need a laptop as well as a PC, depending on their circumstances. But Yeah, it's really worth thinking actually what do you need the system for. Um, so laptops themselves, although we tend to use them quite a lot, um, they're not really designed to be on for 8 hours a day. Because they've got to get the heat out. So you find out that you get problems with laptops later on, especially when they get older. They get problems with heating. So just really thinking of what you need out there. The other thing we get asked quite a lot is for tablets. Um, you've got mobile workers out there. They want to connect into your systems in the office, or if everything is in the cloud, then you can get away with a possibly an Android system. But if you need to connect to a VPN, then you've really got to get a Windows device like a Surface Pro, or just something like that as a device. Servers, depending how big you are, the company size. Obviously, the traditional way was to have your own server. A lot of small businesses might have a grunty PC for their server. Again, there is a difference between a PC to a server in terms of quality of the components and performance. So sometimes, depending on what applications you need to put on there, is whether how you spec that up. And again, every business is different, so that needs to be discussed with your IT person at the time to what's better for you. We have businesses that want to go cloud, but when we reviewed, they do lots of printing and they do lots of transactions. So a cloud server in that case is actually not quite suitable, because if you think about it, if you're in an office and you've got a gigabit network, if you've got the cloud, yes, you might possibly get a gigabit if you pay for it, but generally it won't be as fast as having it in everything in the office. So basically, speed and efficiency, you have to think of that, whichever sort of solution you come up with. Speed of systems. So I'm sure that most of you probably now have heard of SSDs, so solid state drives. They're a game changer. All our systems basically have SSDs, and we're now into sort of the third generations of these. And couldn't highly stress enough. Even if you've got an old laptop and you wanted to go a bit faster, you could get away with just doing a hard drive upgrade. For a couple of $100, you've got a decent machine. So if you've got staff out there, they've all got the old spinning drives, then I'd really suggest that you consider to upgrade a drive. Well worth it. So yeah. The last thing I've got on this list here, me and Matt were just discussing earlier about ownership of domains. We come across businesses quite a lot, and they want to move their email. They want to take it, or they've got to move it. There's an ISP or something closing down. They have to move. Sometimes the owners don't have the details of their own domain. I even come across other people where it's been registered in a different provider, so they don't even own their own domain. I know Matt discusses with his clients, gives them the choice of managing for them, or setting up a separate account. So I'd really take a look at your domain, because that's your business, that's your email. Just make sure that you have the details for it, or that those details can be at hand if you need it. So I think that's really important. It's your IP for business. So that's an area where I think that you should definitely make sure you have that knowledge. I just sort of go a bit more about the cloud. Excuse me a second. So the cloud is the buzzword, has been for a few years now, and basically, is it right for your business? Well, with COVID, I think the answer is quite clear. That cloud is probably quite key at the moment. So if you've got all your data in Dropbox or OneDrive, it's easily shared between all the staff, and it makes it easy. Sometimes though, if you're not in the cloud currently, and you've got things on a PC in the office that you all share, there's there's some merit for that as well. You might have bespoke software. You might have an accounting system that is not in the cloud. So that means all your staff have to connect into the office to access the software. So this is what I say, that basically you need to review. Do you want to jump in the cloud, or do you have to maintain an office presence? There's lots of things you can do there to do things. You could maybe have a hybrid mode. You have your bespoke software in house, and then you might have Office 365 and your email. So you have a sort of a bit of both, really. So yeah, there's benefits of having your own stuff, benefits of having cloud. One thing that you need to consider is cost. Depending on what you need to put in the cloud. If it's just email, Dropbox, that's fairly cheap. If you want to move your server into the cloud, you need to think of the long-term benefits, because you're paying monthly for it. And if you work out what you're paying yearly for it, okay, it does include your maintenance, does include your backups. But sometimes if you look at it over a 5-year period, it's actually way cheaper to own your own server. And there's other downsides that, if there is an outage, then your staff are not working. But at the end of the day, you've got to weigh up the benefits of both. So yeah, again, it's a case of reviewing what you have and what your needs are. Yeah, just the last part. I mean, like I say, we have businesses that can't move into the cloud completely because of the software they run. It's maybe a special accounting system or inventory system. So if you've got good systems in house with UPSs for power protection, and you've got everything all backed up, and you've got offsite backups, that's a really good system for people. Because if you've got a terminal server, all the staff can remote in, access everything, and the good thing about that is it's all backed up. So there are pluses of having your own system still. I'm just going to go back over backups. I keep mentioning backups because of ransomware and other things that can happen out there. Having an on-site backup these days is not really enough. We come across businesses in the past, and they've had an on-site backup. They've been hit, and there's sometimes they have to build things from scratch because you don't want to pay a ransom. So having the off-site backup, which is away from the systems, there's multiple ways you can have it. It can be automated. It could be a USB drive that someone takes off-site each night. But I'd really, really encourage not just having a backup, but having an off-site backup as well. I thought quite topical, working from home at the moment. I think that it's quite critical to have a comfortable setup at home. I run here dual monitors myself, and I find that really, really useful for me, and most people who do quoting and managing things, multiple things at the same time. Making sure that that your screen is at the center of the screen is actually eye level, because otherwise, if you're looking up or looking down, eventually you start getting a sore neck if you start working there for a long time. So just making sure the setup of your office is comfortable for you, and again, a decent chair is also good as well. Docking stations, the way we are at the moment, we're working away from home, but you might need to take your laptop back into the office, or a PC back into the office. So quite a few of our clients, they have docking stations. It just makes it easy to plug everything in and have everything all set up. So that's definitely the key thing. Unfortunately, we do a lot of HP laptops, and HP are changing their. We used to have a docker just plonked in, but they're now moving to the USB-C connection, which is not quite as reliable. But unfortunately, it's the way that things change. So yeah. But anyway, secure remote access to the office. So if you do need staff to hook into the office, you shouldn't just do remote desktop to log into the server or log into a PC. That's very vulnerable. You must connect via a VPN or a secure way of getting in there first. If you're saying just one person getting in, you can get away with using something like TeamViewer. That's very secure and can be set up securely. But yeah, I can't emphasize, having a VPN, not having a router open that people can just get in there. So, but we'll cover a bit more of that in a minute. And a good quality webcam. Obviously now we sort of in and out of lockdowns, working from home. Having a good quality webcam with a good microphone is quite key. So that you can have meetings and it's nice and clear for everyone to see you. So hopefully my connection's nice and clear for you to see as well. And remote printing, because people are working from home at the moment. We've had quite a few office admin people. They want to continue doing their work and they can't print to the office, so it can be set up to print remotely. So these are all things that are fairly straightforward these days to do. Another area that we get asked a bit is changing internet providers. So for instance, say you're at Extra now and you're thinking, oh, I'll move to Vodafone. If you don't have a business domain and you're using Extra's email address, you'd have to pay money to keep it. Or when you move, you have to change settings in there to keep it working. Being a business, realistically, you should have a domain anyway and not have an Extra address or Vodafone. These are really personal accounts. So it shouldn't really be an issue, but it's some businesses are still using that. So yeah, just be mindful when you're changing. And the other thing, you change ISP nowadays, they probably want to change your copper phone line to VoIP as well. So these are just things of evolution. So it's not a bad thing. So. Another area is moving office. Usually the IT guy is the last person who gets told, usually a week before it happens sometimes. It's really, it's quite a major thing actually, moving an office, in terms of making sure that, the first thing is internet. It takes time to organize a circuit to go in there. Old people moving out they'll be cutting their circuit. You've got to bring a new circuit in. Sometimes you can't get a circuit in there until the other one's been transferred across. But there are ways around that now with fiber. But so these things are really need planning. So if you're looking for a new office, probably the first thing is ask your IT guy to do a survey for the internet, see if fiber's available. It's pretty much now mostly is around everywhere, but yeah. But the other thing to do is power sockets, network cabling. These are all simple things, but they take time to organize if it's not in place. So I'd really recommend getting your IT person involved early in the time that you're thinking of moving office. So because it can be done very simply. So yeah, all in the planning. Okay, on to cybersecurity. So this is quite a interesting area. It's been in the news for the recent probably the biggest one was the Waikato DHB not too long ago. getting their servers basically ransomware. You don't want to be in that situation if you can avoid it. And unfortunately, you've got to design things that you've got to be prepared for a breach. Because of staff, you can't control on things they're clicking on all the time. You can educate them as much as you can, but at some point, you're probably going to get some sort of experience. Hopefully it's not ransomware and it's just malware and just inconvenience. But you need to make sure that you can recover from it. And the only way by doing that is making sure you've got backups. So having the on-site backups, if you get ransomware, basically they encrypt your whole system, and potentially they could encrypt your backups if they're not encrypted. So I would check with your IT provider, making sure that they're encrypting your on-site backups, and also the off-site backups are encrypted too. It gets a little bit harder to try and encrypt encryption, but yeah, again, it's making sure that you have backups that you can recover. So there are some things you can put in place. So the things to help stop to get ransomware is good spam control. So for all our businesses that have domains, we recommend SMX. SMX is a New Zealand company, and they filter all emails before it even comes into your organization. So it doesn't even come into your laptop or PC. It gets filtered before it even gets to you. And that's probably the better way of doing things if you can do it. It's not too expensive, but that basically will filter out malware, viruses, and bad things. So you're about 99%. So you're already halfway there to protecting yourself. Passwords. The recommended now is 14 characters. Ideally, make a sentence, change a few letters for symbols and numbers. It sounds quite long, but the end of the day, if you get a sentence like "my cat is black" and to change a few symbols, it's not too difficult to have a good password. Ideally, don't use the same one everywhere. I say that because I know that people do, but at the end of the day, it's best to have a separate password on different sites. I think we're sort of now getting to the stage where you have so many passwords, it becomes a nightmare. So you need to start looking at a password manager. There are lots of different ones. LastPass is one of them, KeyPass, or even put it into a protected Excel document is pretty good. It's better than nothing. I would not recommend doing an online password, because if that gets hit, then you're pretty stuffed. So I would always look at a password manager that you can install on your system, and you know what that password is, because obviously it's a one-time password. So you need to make sure it's one you can definitely remember. The other thing to make sure to stop you getting infected and things like that is basically making sure that your systems are patched. So Windows updates, Microsoft release them every second Tuesday, or if there's a critical one, they'll do it sooner. Install them. They're there to protect you. Also your third-party software, if you're still using Java, Acrobat Reader. So all those systems should regularly be patched. And even if you do a reboot of your PC or laptop at least once a week rather than closing the lid, that will help you if you've got automatic updates turned on. Obviously, antivirus software and anti-malware protection is key as well. So ESET is one of the ones that we recommend, the Malwarebytes. But it's not just a case of having these softwares in place, it's making sure that they're monitored, because how do you know unless it pops up a warning that you've got something, So for all our clients, we actually monitor these things. So these actually send us alerts so we can review them and look at things. So, having all these things in place is no good unless you know about it. So I'd really recommend that you speak to your IT company and making sure that if you haven't got it already, just making sure you've got some monitor systems in there. Going back, so next things on there is advanced authorized access. So in a general day-to-day user, so doing like email for Outlook, surfing the web, doing your accounting system, you don't need to be an administrator. Now, a lot of people set themselves up as administrator, but if you get anything that comes onto your laptop or PC, you're just giving them full access to go and do whatever they want. So we always advise setting up people as a user, have an administrator account, and when you want to install software, it just pops up and you just put that username and password in, and away you go. It's just a way of stopping things from doing what it wants to go and do without your knowledge. So that's the thing I'd really recommend, that you just set yourself up as users and have an admin account. Emails is probably one of your biggest threats. So we all get busy. We get pop-ups. Read them. People just don't read them. They click on the link because they're busy. But it's really worth just having a look at those links and just seeing, even hover your mouse over sometimes to see where things are. And have a look if you see an email that's come through, but you're not quite sure the email address or who it's from. Have a look at the actual email where it's from at the top. If it says .ru, it's Russia, or just be very wary. If you don't know who it is and it looks like junk, just delete it. It probably is junk, And again, backup. Make sure, I'm going to keep saying this, but basically make sure you got a backup, because we can pull things out of a hat, but if you don't have decent backups, there's sometimes nothing we can do. So I can't stress it enough. Looking at the risks of your business, it is something that is worth it. Every business is slightly different. There might be some key things that are similar, but you may have different software. So these may link into third parties, and there may be some vulnerabilities there that basically you need to review. So this is a very, very simple, basically risk analysis, basically, of your software. And I'm happy to give this out. If anyone wants a copy of this presentation, that's fine as well. But I think that you as a business owner need to think about these things and review them regularly. So, I mean, this is, it's quite a simple one. Identify the risks and assets. So, for instance, there you might have an application that talks to, say you've got on like an e-commerce site. It might link to something else. So you need to know where are the risks. Is it encrypted? All that side of it, and that's just something that your IT guy will be able to help you, or your software developer, because these are things that you need to know if there is an issue there, and what can you do to mitigate those risks. So this really is just really going through each area of the business that you use going out on the internet. Where are your risks? So I'll just go through these quickly here. So just identify the risks and assets, prioritize risks, and identify ownership of the risk. So who needs to review it? Is it you as the business owner, or is it the software provider? So these are things you need to find out. Plan and implement controls to mitigate the risk. So what needs to be put in place to stop the issues. Is it as simple as adding an SSL certificate? to your website, just something like that. So it doesn't need to be complex, but it's just getting someone to review these things. Evaluate the implementation of the controls against identified risks, and improve the controls. So making sure that these things are fixed. And then once basically you've isolated those, people have gone and fixed them, your developer has fixed them, document them, and then repeat it. So when you make changes for the business, repeat this review here. So some people, you just put trust in providers, but I think these days, I think it's a case that you need, as a business owner, you need to know where your risks are, making sure that if you know there's holes, that you work towards them to get them fixed. Vulnerability tools. Also, the biggest area, if you've had an email address for many years, you've possibly, if you had a simple password, that's been cracked. So there's a site called Have I Been Pawned? And if you put your email address in there, it will come up saying, this software here has had issues. I'll actually share my other screen in a minute, and I'll show you these things in a minute. Shodan. Shodan's a great site. It actually looks from the outside in. It works on static IP addresses. So if you're a business and you've got a static IP address, you've got a server in the office there, you'll have a router. That router has ports on it. It may need to have ports open for certain things. In an ideal world, no ports are open, which means your router is basically as safe as it can be, apart from making sure the firmware is updated regularly on the router. But Shodan is basically outside looking in to see if there's any holes there, basically. The next one down there is Nessus. So if you have a server or you have a website and you want to go further looking into these, where is there vulnerabilities? Nessus is a scanner which basically tries to try to get into your website and try to get into your server, and it will show you all the vulnerabilities there. So it's a very good tool. This is used by a lot of professional security experts for doing things, and they'll do it regularly. It's a very expensive bit of software. Generally, it will be done. People who use this will be probably security experts, because it's not a cheap package out there. But I thought I'd just throw it out there so that people can read up about it if they want to. Right, that's pretty much it. I was going to, just before we get to questions, I'll just bring over my other slide there. Just bring this over here. I'll put this. Hopefully, can everyone see that? Can you see that, Matt?
Yep.
So this is Have I Been Pawned? So if you want to check your email address to see whether it's been compromised in the past, I just put my one in here, NorthTec, and this one's good. That's great. Obviously, this address has only been going for probably 5 or 6 years. If I go and put in my old address, so this is the other IT business that I've had for a long time. See, that's been out. This is quite an old address, but it then tells you that Adobe got breached. Dropbox. So it tells you a long time ago all these things, and I've changed my password since then. But it does tell you, what sites that basically you've used your email in, and it's really, if you want to know, just go and check it. It's a free website. Just put your email address in, and you'll find out whether your email address has been compromised in some form. Shodan was the other one. So this is actually one of my clients there. Now, this is what you're looking at here is open ports. Now, they're running a server, so we need to have port 443, and they've got a VPN. So these ports are open, but they're secured. So we've got SSL certificates there. So this is okay. You may find that other routers have got lots of ports open. That's a bit of a worry. Yeah, it's for the IT guys that are managing you. They should be checking these things for you, especially when putting a new router in, making sure that it's not open. Yeah, and that's probably about it from me. So open to any questions.
We did have a couple. So first one we have, is access point the same as extender?
Good question. No. So an extender tries to log in to your existing router and basically extend the Wi-Fi signal. Many years ago, when that was probably what was available, we used to use extenders. Now they're not quite as reliable as having an access point. So an access point actually connects directly to your router via a network cable. So it means that you generally would put an access point way away from your router. It could even be another floor, and that will give you the best Wi-Fi signal. The access points aren't that expensive, maybe 150, 200 bucks, depending on how powerful they are. But it does need a network cable to get there. So that's the cost to put it in place, really, is just getting the network cable to where you're going to put it. But if you want good Wi-Fi, the access points are definitely far better than extenders.
Awesome. All right. So the second question that we got here was, how do I know if my internet is slow? What measure is fast versus slow? So yeah, I guess what is a good speed?
Okay. All right. So I've still shared my screen here. So what we'll do is we'll jump into if I can spell correctly. So this is speedtest.net. Okay. So just go to the site. It automatically picks up your provider, and it just chooses another provider, another server elsewhere. You can change the server as well, do different testing, but just click on the go, and this will give you the speed you're getting. Now, the ping. So the ping is how long it takes to get from A to B. So that's the first, and it's in milliseconds. So if the ping is really high, so say that this is 50, and if you're on Wi-Fi, your ping will be a lot higher than it will be if you're on cable. So I'm connected here by a cable, and you can see my ping is 1 millisecond, which is fantastic. You can't get any better than that. I've also got my plan here is full speed. So potentially I could get as high as a gigabit down and 500 up. You can see at the moment I'm not getting 500 a gigabit down, but it's still pretty fast. 400. That's whatever you're doing is more than enough, really. If your download is below 100, then you need to look at that, because it's going to impact. If you've got a few people on the network and you're doing video, it's going to start to struggle a little bit. So I always, as a base plan for clients, I always say 100. So 100 meg up, 100 meg down. And that generally does most small businesses, no problem at all. If you've got more than 5 people, you need to start considering getting a faster plan. And probably full speed isn't a great probably cost jump these days. So in my view, if you've got fiber, get as fast as you can get. It's just, it just makes life easy for everyone. It's a nicer experience. So yeah.
All right. And do you have any suggestions for rural home offices where there's no fiber?
Oh, for rural, okay. Yes, that's a challenge. um, so it really depends on where you are, in terms of what you can get. If you're unlucky enough to get bad cell phone coverage as well, um, there are providers out there that provide rural broadband. I think it's Farmside is one of them. Yeah, there are a couple of the players. Um, yeah, it's unfortunate. We've looked after a few businesses that are rural, and it's quite challenging when all you can get is very slow connections. Um, there isn't too much choice for what you can get. I mean, if you can get 4G on your cell phone, I would go with 4G, with a 4G router. With some of the bigger players, because that's probably going to be quite a reasonable speed for you. If you can't get 4G and 3G, I suppose even 3G is better than probably copper. But yeah, you're a little bit stuck there. So it's just really a case of reviewing some rural broadband circuits, which is going to provide you the best. So yeah.
Awesome. So I was thinking of a question a little while ago, going back in terms of, I mean, you kind of nailed the whole got to do backups aspect. But how do you do your own backups?
How do I do my own backups?
Yeah,
Okay.
for NorthTec, what system do you have in place
Yeah,
for your own
sure.
backups?
Okay, so what I have here, so in my office here, I've got a drive inside my PC, so a dedicated drive for backups, and I use a backup package called Veeam. So Veeam is an enterprise backup solution, but they do a like an entry level home. They even do what's called a community version. So we've got some servers in a data center, and we back up those whole servers using Veeam Enterprise, and that backs up the whole server. Um, so again, you've got to have a separate backup drive, and it depends. Yeah, for business, different businesses different, and depending on what your budget is for backups. If you have a server, we would generally have the backup drives in a RAID 1. So if one drive failed, you still retain your backups. Because it's unlikely that if your server died, that you'd be very unlucky that your backup drive dies as well. But it's that risk factor. So what we also do as well is we also have an off-site backup solution which is separate, so that we make sure that basically if either the environment gets hit, we've got another copy somewhere else. Because there's no point recommending to these things of not having it yourself in place. So yeah. So
And how frequently do you do those backups?
okay. So the actual the server backups, they're done hourly. They're done in the background. You don't even know they're happening. Systems are so powerful these days, you don't really know that these are happening. And for my system here, I might just do this nightly here. It's just the home system. Everything's not here anyway. So yeah.
And would you recommend that sort of frequency, like a daily backup for most businesses, or would it depend on the individual circumstance? Let's say a builder, for example, who only really uses his computer for sending out invoices and replying to emails.
Yeah, I mean, At minimum, I would set backups automatic. So I would set it automatic and do it minimum daily. Also, as well, as a retention policy, I'd make sure that it goes back 3 or 6 months. Because, for instance, someone like that, a builder, you might have an Excel spreadsheet that he used 3 months ago and goes to log into it and it's corrupted. Well, you're pretty stuffed if you've only got a backup for a month. You can't get back any further. So, yeah, you need to know what your retention policy is. I mean, I've got clients who've got some serious data. I mean, we're talking terabytes and terabytes of data, and we back up that. We only do 3 months because it's so big. You can only do a certain amount of backups for it. So again, like I say, it is reviewing what is the requirement, how far do you need to go back, because generally, if you need to use a backup, you want to use the most recent. So, but it's sometimes you get staff leave. A common thing really is staff leave. A couple of months down the track, someone goes, "Oh, where's those documents of such and such put on the server?" "Oh, we deleted them before we left." That's the common thing. So we have that quite a lot. Not quite a lot, but we do come across it a fair bit, where staff delete things, whether they do it on purpose or whether they do it by accident. And if it's not discovered within 1 or 2 months, you might find you've lost that history. So.
No, that's fair enough. I think that kind of helps put a bit of insight, and obviously for me as well, but everyone else around what they should be doing.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, and for anyone who's listening in on this that doesn't know, a lot of my own work involves websites and hosting them, so they get backed up daily. But making sure my own data is always backed up is probably not done as regularly as it should.
Yeah, and I think this is where you really want automated backups.
Yep.
I mean, it's like there's free versions out there. The best thing really is automated and with an email notification. So you want to know if that backup is working. So
Yes.
you really want daily emails to say successful or failed, because having a backup in place is fantastic. But if you don't know it's working, when it comes to use it, the last thing you want is the backup hasn't been working for 6 months. The backup drive's full or it's corrupted or something.
Yep.
So, like I say, that these days there is no excuse for people not having a backup because there are free versions out there. So, yeah, by all means, if anybody needs any help with backups, please contact me. I can help them out quite quickly.
That's a perfect segue to the to the next question I had, which was, so how can people get in touch with you if they want to know more or get you to help with their backups and IT security?
Yeah, sure. Well, you can just go to our website, which I'll just put there. So NorthTec, there's our phone number there, 415-0045. Or you can email me, Marcus at northtec.co.nz.
I probably should have had a spreadsheet with all this ready to copy and paste.
Yeah.
But I will pop that into the chat in a second.
And if anyone wants a copy, I don't have an issue with sharing the presentation if they want a copy of it. So.
Awesome. No, thank you very much for that. The next presentation, just before we sort of pull this to an end, the next presentation is going to be about exit strategy for businesses and kind of what to look for if you're going to be buying a business. So that's going to be done by ABC or ABC Business Solutions, Leicester. he will be giving his presentation on what to look for, how to value a business as well, which is very important if you are going to be looking at buying. And then the exit strategy is pretty much looking at what you can do to maximize the value of your business when you're coming up to retirement and looking at selling it. So keep your eyes out for that information. As soon as we've got a little bit of a blurb and a little image to go with it, that'll get sent out. So thank you all for coming. And again, I would like to thank Destination Oreo Beach, Business Whangaparaoa, and Silverdale Business. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everyone attending.